Clerk.
Private members' business notice number 2, motion relating to apology to the Forgotten Australians and former child migrants.
The member for Swan.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to move the motion that this House notes that on the 16th of November 2014 it marked the 5th anniversary of an important milestone in Australia's history when the Australian Government delivered its formal apology to the Forgotten Australians and former child migrants in 2009. And I thank the member for Barara for seconding this motion, and I appreciate, as the father of the House, he might have been around at the time when those sort of events were occurring that the apology was directly attributable to. But it was a dark time in our history of Australian care and state systems, but I'd like to first set the scene of the actual day of the national apology, and also, while I'm here, take the opportunity to acknowledge the member for Coria and Blaxland who were involved with me on the National Apology Committee, and during that process we worked closely together to make sure that the national apology on that day, on the November the 16th, was a day that would help a lot of people who had been through those experiences. And it was on the day there was a lot of anticipation and there was a lot of excitement in the air. A lot of people travelled to Canberra to come to the Great Hall to hear Prime Minister Rudd and then Opposition Leader, the member for Wentworth, to deliver their apologies on behalf of not only the government but the opposition as well. And there was over 900 people gathered in the hall, and I'm sure the member for Coria who was there, Blaxland who was there, remembers the anticipation within that room and the buzz, and as the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition entered the hall, it fell silent, and then the words that meant so much to so many people, to over 500,000 Forgotten Australians and child migrants, those words were delivered. And who can forget the time when Peter Hicks came up to the podium when Malcolm Turnbull was delivering his speech and hugged him halfway during his speech, and it was one of the emotional times during that particular day. The day was full of emotion, and I particularly also want to acknowledge the work done by Joanna Penglaze and Leonie Sheedy from Clan, who worked with the member for Blaxland and Coria to make sure that the apology was actually delivered in Parliament. And also would also like to acknowledge the Senate reports which were done previously about the Forgotten Australians and child sex abuse in institutions in Australia, and also to Senator Seward and former Senator Andrew Murray, who is actually now on the Royal Commission for the child sex abuse into those institutions. But the work they did to help the apology come to place, or come to fore in this place. It was after the apology, I remember my brother came up. He was one of the children who was left behind, not actually taken away, but he was left behind, and the emotions he felt on that particular day, along with all the other people in the hall, was enormous. And I know when I left the hall to go and do a quick interview with one of the radio stations, there was a young woman from Western Australia whose name was Cheryl, who was just standing in the great outside in the forum and was shaking and didn't know what to do. And I went over and gave her a hug, and she said that was one of the things that reminded her or made the day for her that that the MPs who were involved and who actually were helped delivering it were actually prepared to be there and be get emotionally involved with them as well. They then held a fantastic barbecue area out on the front lawns of the House, and I remember that for the first time, and the only time in the whole time I've been coming to Parliament attending, I got leave from question time to go and join all the Forgotten Australians and child migrants on the front lawns, and the mood was ecstatic. Then one of the things that a woman said to me, who'd come out of her hospital bed that day and travelled from Victoria, had said she thought she was coming to Parliament to hear just another load of diatribe and voices and non-meaning delivery of speeches by politicians, but she said it was well worth her coming out of her hospital bed, travelling to Canberra to hear those words from the Prime Minister and from the Leader of the Opposition, and she said she would go to her grave dying a happy person now that they've been delivered. In the short time left, the Royal Commission has been extended by the coalition government and acknowledge that the previous government instituted it, but there's more work to be done, much more to do, and we'll continue to fight, as I keep saying to the Forgotten Australians and the people with the child migrants from Malta as well and from UK, never give in.